Hello my gorgeous people, Grace here, Bicodonia. Let's talk about the KLX230 airbox. An enthralling topic, I know, but hear me out. Okay, so this is one of the things I really like about the KLX230 because the airbox, the air intake is really quite high. It is on the side of the bike, but the air intake is right at the top of your airbox, and I'm going to show you where it is in just a minute. Now, this is really good because compared to proper enduro bikes like the Gas EC300, like your KTM 250 EXC, they have the air intake really quite low on the side of the bike. So if you're really smashing it through water crossings at speed or you're going through really deep water, it's really, really easy to get an airbox full of water, which nobody likes, especially your bike. Now, the KLX, for such a tiny bike, it gives you heaps and heaps of clearance for getting through those deep water crossings. So let me just show you where that air intake is. Now here you have my sexy motorbike. We just have the side panel off and the seat off, and that gives you super easy access to the airbox element. Here you go, you can see where it just slides out after you remove that piece of plastic with a couple of screws. And here's what my air filter element looks like after a few hundred kilometers of riding in conditions that aren't even dusty. It looks exactly like chocolate cake, and the same thing goes for motorcycles as for dogs. Don't give them chocolate cake. Now here you can see the plastic frame which is keeping the air filter element rigid. That will just pop straight off to allow you to clean and re-oil that foam element. Now for most regular oils you're going to need a solvent. Try to use something like turpentine. Try not to use gasoline if you can help it because contaminants in gasoline will break down the foam filter. However, if you're using a fancy air filter oil like rock oil, which is spelled R-O-K, this is totally biodegradable and you can just wash that out with soap and water. Anyway, regardless of whether you're using a solvent or not, the next step is to wash everything remaining out using soap and water. Use dishwashing liquid because that has really good grease removal qualities as well for any leftover oil residue. And obviously let it dry thoroughly before you go on to re-oil it. You want to re-oil it with special air filter oil, not regular engine oil if you can help it. The special air filter oil will be stickier than normal engine oil, so it's going to grab those particles of contamination that are flying through the air way more effectively than normal oil. However, if you're in the middle of nowhere and you can't get air filter oil, then using normal engine oil is okay. It will get you through, but just make sure you change it out for proper air filter oil as soon as you can, because what your engine breathes in matters a lot. Now you want to really squeeze that oil through the foam to really get it distributed really evenly right throughout the foam matrix. So use a plastic bag and squash it up nicely. Don't wring it, just squash it. And that will get the oil distributed evenly like you want, whilst also avoiding an unholy mess on your hands. I'm pretty sure air filter oil is kind of carcinogenic as well, so again, another reason to use a plastic bag instead of getting it all over your fingers. The filter should not be oversaturated or dripping with oil because that is going to stop your motorbike from breathing properly as well. Anyway, give it 10 minutes to dry. This is particularly important if you're using a sticky air filter oil. And then chuck it back in its little plastic frame and slide it back into the top of your airbox there. Note that the plastic frame with the silver mesh goes on the bottom and the plastic frame without the silver mesh goes on the top. As you can see, the two halves of the plastic frame just clip together with that foam element sandwiched inside. There we go. Clip, clip, clip. Now, it's always advisable to put a little bead of grease around the lip of the airbox so that when you slide the element in, there's no leakage between the edge of the airbox and the filtration element, so you're not getting any contaminants skipping your filter, as it were. Anyway, super easy, just go ahead and slide her in. Beautiful. And now you just need to screw down that piece of plastic which protects your filtration element. That's just 6 screws. Make sure it's nice and clean and screw that back in. Again, a little bit of waterproof grease around the joins will never go astray. Now, if we zoom in, you can see how well protected this airbox is. Your air intake is way, way up high under your seat, and so you can really feel confident as you smash those water crossings. The KLX230 may be no high-end enduro bike, but she's pretty resilient and can go a fair few places. Now, as always, when you're tightening a metal screw into plastic, you want to be nice and gentle. These screws don't need to be over torqued. Don't over tighten them because all you're going to do is pull the whole screw out of the plastic. And then you'll have to epoxy it back in. Not the end of the world, but clearly something to avoid. Speaking of broken airboxes, however, I have something to show you. Check this out, top right hand corner, big hole in my airbox. That's from a piece of bamboo that's gone straight through the plastic, fortunately above the filter element and not below it. Even more fortunately, that piece of bamboo went through the plastic airbox and not through my leg. So how to fix this? First, we got out the super glue. So super glue and the triple grips to hold the deformed plastic in place while we glued it back together. But on its own, I wasn't trusting just super glue. So we got out the very special roofing tape. It's got a really thick silver backing, but then on the inside it has this thick rubbery layer. Now, at first, this thick rubbery layer is not sticky, but it's heat activated. So, what you do is you stick it on the affected area, and then you get your heat gun or your hair dryer and you make it hot. You activate that sticky stuff. And what it does is it seals up and it sets and it stays. It's really great stuff. It's all about waterproofing, heavy duty waterproofing, and that's exactly what I was after when it comes to sealing up my airbox from both air and water. Unfortunately, the KLX230 is not a high-end bike, and it's also not one that's sold a lot of units in the developed world at this point. So your high-end filtration manufacturers are not going to be producing filters for this bike yet. And it's just not going to be economically viable for them. So on the KTM 690 Enduro, I always use the Googlertech filters. I use them as my fuel filters. I also use them as my air filters because they have this patented 3D filtration matrix, which is better than foam and it's reusable and it's really incredible technology. It gives you some of the best filtration around. And like I say, can reuse it for the life of the bike as long as you look after it properly. That is great stuff. KLX230, we're shit out of luck. So I'm just going to have to run with this little piece of foam that we have here. And I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'm going to keep cleaning it. And I'm going to see how it goes. Now, if you have any input on this, if you've had any good or bad experiences with the air filters on these bikes, or if you know of an aftermarket product that you would particularly recommend, do let me know in the comments below because I am keen to find out. All right, take it easy, take care, and don't forget to clean your air filter.